INFJ stands for introversion, intuitive, feeling, and judging. Making up just 1.5% of the population, this personality type is one of the rarest in the world. While INFJs are known for their empathy, their desire to improve the human condition, and their encouragement of meaningful relationships, there's a dark side to INFJs that's not always talked about. Today on Charisma, we're going to be looking at the dark side of the INFJ personality type. Number 1. Isolation and withdrawal. The first dimension of an INFJ, the I stands for introversion. This means that an INFJ personality type gets their energy from being by themselves rather than from being around others. After a social event, for instance, an introvert needs time alone to recharge because they tend to have a lower social battery. And while there's nothing wrong with being introverted, INFJs can sometimes take their introversion to an extreme by isolating themselves from the external world and cutting off those around them. While one minute your INFJ friend is wanting to grab lunch or go to a party with you, in another moment they're suddenly a hermit, ignoring your calls and texts. While they don't do this out of any malice, it can lead them to burning relationships with friends and loved ones. And perhaps even more frustrating, when your INFJ friend does resurface, they find it hard to understand why you found their behavior offensive or hurtful. Number 2. Unrealistic expectations. INFJs feel things based on their dominant introverted intuition, meaning that they have active imaginations and see possibilities and potential for the future. Typically, this means that INFJs have high expectations for themselves and push themselves to be the best in their career, physical health, or relationships. However, it also means that INFJs have high expectations of those around them, and sometimes these expectations can be unrealistic. An INFJ in a relationship might, for instance, expect their partner to have the same level of career ambition as them, or similar exercise goals. If the INFJ you're dating is training to run a marathon, for example, and you're more of a 2 days a week at the gym sort of person, they might criticize you for being lazy or unmotivated. Or, if your INFJ friend is working towards a big promotion at work, but you have a different balance between work and your personal life, they might push you to change. This is because INFJs find a lot of meaning in their goals, and thus have trouble comprehending that not everyone shares nor needs to share their same level of ambition. Number 3. The door slam. INFJs are empathetic people who value deep, meaningful relationships. And while their empathy is one of their greatest gifts, it can also be one of their biggest downfalls. This is because INFJs feel the emotions of others so deeply that if it becomes too much for them to handle, they will cut that person out of their life. This is known as an INFJ door slam. If they have a family member or friend who is going through a rough time and the INFJ becomes overwhelmed by the emotional weight of it all, they will be quick to cut off communication with that person. While sometimes this is done in obvious ways, like directly telling their friend that they no longer want to continue their friendship, the metaphorical door slam can also be carried out in more subtle ways. They might stop responding to their friend's texts or suddenly be unavailable to talk on the phone. And when they do encounter this friend at a social gathering, they might avoid them by talking to other people or leaving early. Even though the INFJ isn't doing this out of ill intent, it can be incredibly hurtful, not to mention confusing for the person on the receiving end of this behavior. Number 4. They don't sugarcoat. There's nothing that an INFJ hates more than small talk, sugarcoating, or white lies, because they feel that it's disingenuous, fake, and simply a waste of time. And even though it seems like a good quality, and it often is, INFJs can take their honesty to an extreme. When this happens, they become brutally honest to the point that they offend or hurt others. Instead of stating the truth with compassion for how that truth will affect someone, an INFJ will speak without restraint and come across as cruel or insensitive. You might have experienced this before if you're friends with an INFJ. Maybe you've expressed concern to your INFJ friend that your relationship isn't working out and have been surprised and hurt when they tell you that it's because you're not trying hard enough or your partner isn't the right person for you. Even if this is true, INFJs have difficulty understanding that there are kinder, more effective ways of stating the same truths. In addition, INFJs don't only express brutal honesty with others, but also with themselves. They're often hard on themselves with negative self-talk, which can negatively impact their self-esteem and confidence. Number 5. Bottling up negative emotions and then exploding. As we discussed, INFJs are incredibly empathetic and great at helping others process their emotions. However, the same doesn't always hold true when it happens to themselves. In fact, INFJs are notorious for being great at understanding others, but struggle to comprehend their own feelings. Furthermore, they have difficulty discussing their emotions with others, preferring to keep to themselves. Over time, this bottling up of emotions can take its toll, as there is no mechanism that allows the INFJ's emotions to be released. If an INFJ continues this cycle, it eventually results in them snapping and releasing their pent-up emotions in an unhealthy way. For instance, if an INFJ becomes frustrated with a friend or burnout at work and shoves their feelings under the rug, eventually they might snap at a loved one, blow up at work, or something worse for seemingly no reason. Number 6. Manipulation. INFJs are gifted with a strong sense of intuition. They often intuitively know the answer to something or know that something is going to happen before it does. And while INFJs usually use their intuition for good, at times it can be used for the wrong reasons. This is especially the case when it comes to manipulation. Because INFJ's intuition makes them great at reading emotions, they often understand another person and what motivates them rather quickly. Unfortunately, sometimes they use this knowledge to their advantage by manipulating the other person to get what they want. If you find yourself in a relationship with an INFJ, they likely can intuitively sense what bothers you, what makes you happy, and how to push your buttons. They can use this advantage themselves by, for instance, pushing your buttons to get an emotional response from you as a form of manipulative revenge, if you've done something wrong in the relationship. Or they might sense what your weak points are and then use these to help them get what they want from you. Number 7. Grip stress. If you've ever encountered an INFJ, or maybe you're one yourself, you've probably experienced something called grip stress. This is the stress that results when INFJs exert themselves too much, whether from being sick, working too hard, or dealing with some form of emotional distress like a breakup or a death in the family. When experiencing such stresses, an INFJ becomes controlled by what's known as extroverted sensation, or the focus on the sensory world and the present moment rather than the future and the long-term results of behavior. In other words, the INFJ experiences an overexpression of the desire to live in the present and experience the sensory details offered by the present moment. Once in this state of grip stress, INFJs are drawn to impulsive and destructive behaviors like over-exercising, drinking too much or using drugs, binge eating, or obsessively cleaning. This behavior is often surprising and even disturbing to those who know the INFJ because it's so different from their normal behavior. Unfortunately, INFJs rarely recognize that they are about to enter a cycle of grip stress until it's too late, making it difficult to prevent. Number 8. Stubbornness. The last dimension in the INFJ personality is the judging trait, which means that INFJs are masters at organization and planning. However, sometimes they take this too far when their need for preparation falls overboard and they refuse to compromise. For example, if you're in a relationship with an INFJ, you might realize that they're trying to plan out every second of their weekend with you. When you voice that you would rather have a relaxing, less structured time together, they might become upset and be reluctant to budge, rationalizing that their plans will make your time together better. Another way in which an INFJ's stubbornness can manifest is when it comes to their values. INFJs are known for having a clear set of values that they stand by no matter what. And while this can be great if their values are more universal, if their value system is less conventional or even unethical, it can be problematic. This is because an INFJ will refuse to compromise on their value system and will often shut down any discussion around the merits of it. While we're on the topic of dark sides, are you familiar with the INTP dark side? Watch this other video we made to learn about the dark side of the most intelligent personality type.